Welcome back. This is part 4 in our video series looking at image 12 verse 10 of The Secret. In our last video we looked at the top of the verse and tried to show how it could be the northern part of Roosevelt Island. And in this video we'll continue looking at the image at the last couple important pieces and try to figure out how we can use that to give us our search area. So the only thing in the image that we haven't really taken a good look at are these onion domes. And I'm a believer that they are representing St. Nicholas Russian Orthodox Cathedral. From the island, that is directly north. And I think that the important part of that picture of the cathedral in the image is that it's taken on an angle. If you look at the perspective of it, this one seems to be in the foreground, this one seems to be in the background, and this is the largest one. So that tells me that the image is on an angle. It was taken on an angle, and that could be pointing us in the direction of Roosevelt Island. For example, if it was taken from this location pointing that way, or maybe over in this building pointing that way, I think it's trying to give us another hint from the viewpoint that it's directing us towards the island again. And what's really interesting is if you drop a line directly south from the middle of the cathedral, that line intersects the Queensboro Bridge. And when I did that, it gave me the idea that maybe I'm supposed to drop a second line because that almost looks like the clock in the picture. So I decided to use the reference points of the Blackwell Lighthouse, and I dropped a line to that, and those two lines were almost a perfect image match for the clock in the picture. So right here you got the clock, and using the perspective of that, we've created that. Now, is there anything in this image that would lead us to believe that we need to drop two lines? I think there is. There's a line missing right here on this panel, and there's a line missing right here on this panel. And this line is at the 12 o'clock position, and this line is roughly in the 11 o'clock position. And so maybe that's the hint that tells us that we need to add two lines to make our own clock. And so when I started to look at this, one of the thoughts that I had was, am I using the lighthouse? Is that the right spot? And so I went ahead and tried it on the other spots on the island that we had. And so the one spot that I tried first was the octagon, since the verse had led us to there with a connection to Charles Dickens. But when I overlaid the clock, you can see that the hand pointing to 11 o'clock, if you were to extend that out, would end up somewhere down here, and it wasn't a perfect match. But when I used the lighthouse, you can see that that line, if it were extended, is directly at the lighthouse. And so I think that in the verse, when it says take twice as many east steps as the hour or more from the middle of one branch of the V, I think the V is something that we need to create. And I think that we need to then use it to follow these directions to figure out where we need to be boots on the ground. I'm going to show you my first thought in this video, and in the next video I'm going to show you where I truly believe it leads. This first thought was what I did initially, and I don't believe it to be correct, but I'm going to show it to you anyways. So the next line is take twice as many east steps as the hour. Well, what I did is I measured the distance of this line. It's 16811 feet, 1.2 miles, 1.29 miles. So I doubled that, and I ran it directly east from the lighthouse. So twice the hour. And when I did that, if you think about what the verse is telling you, so take twice as many east steps as the hour. Okay, so that's the line I just dropped. Or more from the middle of one branch of the V. So if we get rid of, if we put down half of one branch of the V, that would be this blue line here. That's halfway. And so, or more from one half of the middle of the V would be that line going right through that same exact point. So yeah, it is. It's more than this distance is. It's going through the exact same spot. And where does that take us to? It takes us into a condominium complex that was here since the 1930s. And that line is stopped directly in a planter box, shaped like a triangle. I was able to get a little bit of a look at it through Street View. You can see it there. There's the front of the angle. If we come back out, we can get a second view from the other side. There it is again right there. So that was my initial attempt at trying to solve that part of the riddle. Was taking it twice the length of the hour hand and running it directly east from the lighthouse. And that was the spot that it led me to. After I continued to look at it, I came up with what I think is a better idea and what I think is the right idea. And in my next video, I'm going to show you that. And I'm going to show you where this cast could very well be buried.